every time I watch it, I'm just like, oh my gosh, so beautiful. Hey, welcome back to Life Seasons. It's yet another episode and I'm so excited to be back. I know we've been quiet. I know someone is asking, why haven't you guys continued with the story? But we had to pause because something important is happening. It's Mother's Day and we just want to celebrate it by having some fun mom conversations. So I'm going to be having an amazing guest today. She's a mother and she has a very interesting story. So I'd like to welcome you, Ruby. Nicole.
Okay.
Do people call you Ruby?
Everybody calls me
Everybody.
Ruby nowadays. It's growing on me.
It's growing on you.
Yeah. So I'm Nicole. I'm a doula, a mom of two, a psychologist as well. And yeah, I'm excited to be here and excited to see how this conversation goes.
Awesome. Let me just say before we go on, I don't want to ignore. I just feel like there's so much, first of all, going on in the world today. And like today morning, I was talking to a friend of mine who was telling me, I don't know if you saw on the news, the apartments that have crashed, that have collapsed in Uthiru, and she was telling me those apartments actually right next to the folks. And I'm just, I don't know, I'm just feeling so tender and so like my heart is just going out to everybody who has been affected by the floods, whether it's you losing your property or your car being damaged or your house collapsing. I mean, just sending our hearts and love to you guys from Life Seasons, to you. I don't know if Ruby, you've been affected by the floods in any way.
Not in like a large scale. Our basement flooded, but
nothing
everyone
extreme.
was okay.
Yeah. Also just thankful for those of us who are okay, not taking it for granted. Yeah, I just wanted to put that out there and just so we're not just ignoring the things that are happening around us. But welcome to the set. Welcome to Life Seasons. I've changed the set. And you're my first guest here, so I'm so excited to be having you on here. And I just really wanted to get to know, maybe we can start by you just telling us a little bit about, you've told me about yourself, but a little bit about just how, because you said you're a mom of two, so just a little bit about your pregnancy journey, how that has been, how that was.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So my first pregnancy, I guess I got into it as a young mom. I was 22.
22.
Yeah, I've been preparing for it since I was 19. So when I got into it, I was ready to go. And yeah, that first pregnancy was fairly easy, no drama. I was just living life pregnant.
But did you just say you are preparing for your pregnancy from 19?
Yes. So
why is that?
I saw this lady on YouTube give birth in a forest by a stream, and I was like, I love that. How can I get to find out more about that? And yes, I found podcasts, so Free Birth Society, Indie Birth Podcast, all of those were kind of like what got me into it. And I just became obsessed. Yeah, so me and now he's my husband, but we were dating back then. So, whenever I go to his house, I'm just there with my podcast, all these women birthing,
all these things.
Vaginas, placentas, all of this.
Right, because it's quite, it shows a lot. It's graphic. I've watched, I think when I was giving birth to my second born, my husband, in fact, he was telling me the other day that it's his friend who shared it with him. This lady called Badass Mother Bertha.
Yes.
So he found that page.
Oh, nice.
And I'm just like, and so what's so funny is that he introduced me to that page and he would watch those videos together. Now he's like, he can't, he's out of that phase. So it's just like, he can't, it's too graphic. I'm like, but we used to look at these things then, but it's quite, so that inspired you?
Yeah.
Okay, what exactly about just those videos, what did you feel connected to?
So actually my mom was telling me when I was a kid, I used to be obsessed with like birth. So I'd like make my little sister would role play that, I'm the OB and she's pushing, just the whole
really?
thing. Yeah, so I've always loved it. But then now, watching hospital birth videos, it gets to a point where it's very tense. I don't know if it's very anxiety inducing at some point. So I'd usually just click out skip to like, you know, where the babies come. Have you watched TLC? Remember those
the shows,
labor
like
ward video shows? Yeah, we used to watch that with my mom, and I love that. So I guess it's just been
a natural thing.
Yeah.
Let me say, what's so interesting is I think it's so amazing that your mom saw that, because something that I've been learning, or even just hearing a lot in the space that I am in with my kids, is just that, like, when you observe your kids, you sort of start to see their inclinations.
Yeah.
Pretty early. So it just seems like it was in you, the whole doula, and was already a calling over your life.
Yes. I always wanted to be a mom. Like, honestly, I think when I was 19, that was when I was just like, let me just prepare. By the time I get to graduation, maybe we can have a baby, me and my boyfriend. Yeah, so we got married. And I had a baby a year after.
Awesome. So one of the most exciting things about your story is that you gave birth at home, and not at your first pregnancy, where you went to hospital, had a bad experience, and then now we're like, hey, Naomi, I'm done with this thing. You just decided from the get-go, I'm having a home birth.
Yeah.
Just please take us through that whole experience and just that journey.
Okay, so a little bit of backstory, back to my mom again. So she's always called me a rebel, and I used to hate it. Like, I'm just like, I'm not a rebel, I'm just doing my own thing.
Right.
Like, you know, I really didn't want to identify as that, but, you know, I guess now I'm starting to embrace it. So I guess just wanting to do things my own way, which I guess is not the usual way. But, you know, once you get into the space, you start to realize, like, you know, your house help has given birth to twins at home. You know, there's all these people around you who've always given birth at home. Like, after I had my baby, my mother-in-law found out her sister is a traditional midwife, and she didn't know this until after. And she birthed her babies at home. She was supporting women here in Dago during the coup, birthing their babies.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it's just like these things that are just around us, but we're so disconnected.
Yeah.
But the good thing about being Kenyan or African, I guess, is that it's not so far removed. Like, if you look at the US, like, you see the stats now, like, Black women are like 4 times more likely to die. Their maternal mortality is increasing. And then they're like 2-3 generations from birthing at home and, you know, not medicalizing the birth process as a total.
Okay.
Yeah, so it just...
So you saw it around you. You sort of saw it around you as well.
I didn't, actually.
Oh, you did?
I found this out after. So for me, when I was going into it, I actually didn't even tell anyone. I only told my mom and my mother-in-law that I was giving birth at home. Didn't give too much details. You know, of course, everyone was like, oh, you know, what if something goes wrong?
Yeah.
Starting to tell me, I don't know if you experienced this, but people would always tell you, like, the horror stories of their aunties, you know, somebody who had this terrible birth experience.
Yes,
But, you know, like, when you think about it, if you're getting married, nobody's going to come and tell you, oh, you know, the divorce rate is at 50%.
Right.
You know,
are you sure you should be going into this?
You know, men like to beat their wives, things like that. Nobody's going to come and tell you all of these negative stories. But when we see a pregnant woman, somehow we want to just trauma dump on them, you know, but we should be protecting these women. They're in such a vulnerable space. They're going to such a vulnerable time. Yeah, so I just protected my space, prepared my husband, although I didn't need to do too much.
In fact, that's what I was going to ask. Like, how did you sell this crazy idea to him? But you're saying you didn't have to sell too hard.
Yeah, I think he already knew. He already had the birth stories I was listening to. So by the time I was getting into it, he was just like, so what's the plan? Like, we're doing it at home. He's like, okay, what do you need me to do? He didn't want to really, like, read too much, which I was fine with. I just needed him to follow my lead and listen to what I need. So whether I wanted him to play music, to shut up, to rub my back. So I just was like giving him tips to help me just flow through the whole thing.
Right.
Yeah, but I'd say for him, I think our biggest challenge was him trying to, like, block out the noise from other people. Because of course, because people wouldn't go directly to me, they probably go through him.
Please talk to your wife.
Exactly.
I mean, I know, you know, she's pregnant. She probably doesn't. You know, when the women are pregnant, they're not thinking straight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, he really had to I guess back me, I guess. Yeah, that was really what he needed to do. You know, of course, we had some moments where he was like, are you sure about this? You know, maybe we should just get somebody. And yeah, I was like, okay, we get somebody, we go to the hospital. What are we going to do there? Yeah. So he was just like, okay, I'll follow your lead. And then when the time came, it was fairly straightforward, honestly.
Really? Did you have any fears?
I did. And, you know, of course, fears are there. Fears are not a bad thing, you know. It's here to protect us. But, you know, the thing you need to do is kind of discern where is like a valid fear, where is a fear that someone is putting into you.
Right.
Whether it's internal or external, and find a way to work around that. Like, let's say, what fear did I have? I think I was scared that I wouldn't know if something was wrong. So I think one thing I told myself was like, if I had an infection right now, my body would tell me. I wouldn't, you know, a doctor won't come and tell me that I have an infection. I'll go to the hospital and say, something's wrong, can we find out? Yeah, so I was just like, you know, I'll just do what needs to be done to make sure the space is right for birth and make sure I'm preparing physically to make sure everything is going to go as smooth as possible. And if I need any extra help, of course, I'm not opposed to that.
Okay. So how did you now make this space right for birth? I feel like with the fears that I probably have, get all the machines, get all the, you know, just have things on standby. Like, yeah, I'm going to do this whole natural thing, but just in case. How did you just prepare the space for you?
So by just researching and reading and just being in the birth space, I also took a doula training while I was pregnant, just to mostly prepare myself, but also just for now also working with other women. Yeah, so by then I realized, so there's 3 things your body needs to give birth. So you need privacy, to feel safe, and you need to be in an environment you're also feeling comfortable in. So it's like, how can I create my environment to feel safe? Where am I most comfortable? That was in my house. What can I do for my body? That was eating well, moving my body, connecting with my baby, of course, and yeah, just checking in with myself every now and then. So, you know, and also practicing breath work. That's also a really big tool for, you know, just managing through labor. That's honestly, if you have nothing else, work on your breathing just so you're able to just get oxygen to your body, calm yourself down when you're feeling nervous and overwhelmed. Yeah, and then just make sure my team was right. So I had my husband, and that was it.
And you told me before we started shooting, you told me your husband and your dog.
My puppy.
Puppy.
She was amazing. She sat with me through the whole thing.
Really? So they can, I think I saw a post where you say that how one of the signs to know that you're also getting ready to go into labor is like if you have a pet, like a cat and a dog, they start following you around.
Yeah, and they get very like attached to you. Yeah, so she just sit by me. She fell asleep, and then when my baby was born, started crying. That's when she woke up. She came, started, you know, licking me and you know, just smelling. Yeah, and it was really nice.
You know, let me tell you, this thing called birth, and I don't know why these realizations are coming when I'm done. I'm done with giving birth. However, I just feel like birth is such a natural process and such a like. It's an animal instinct, let me say that. And because I remember I was, our neighbor has cats. And it's the first time I actually watched a cat give birth. So the cat was expectant. And even just how my neighbor described the cat to have been preparing for her kittens, to receive her kittens. Like she would, like, you know, start pulling blankets and take them to a certain corner. First of all, they look for a very safe space. So just like what you're saying, you want to create a safe environment for you. So animals also do that. Like the cat found a corner, trying to pull even the blankets that are like your favorite blankets to like just create a nice safe space. And then now even watching the birth, by the way, I'm like, this thing is so natural. Like, look, there's no nurse saying, sorry, you're taking too long. We need to let me check your cervix. Oh my gosh, cancer. Trigger.
Exactly.
It's just such a natural process. So I'm just curious to also know, even as you are watching these videos and even not going through this doula training and stuff, like what things started to sold you into understanding that one, you can do this by yourself, you can be your own doula, and that like this whole thing is such a natural process, and your body, you know, all the things you're saying, that your body will tell you when there's a problem. My body, I'm just like, that's not a normal thing. You've bought into a thought, into a belief system that has now become your whole being.
Yeah. So I think for me, I don't know, it just made so much sense. So for me, I didn't have to think too much about it. I was like, okay, where am I most comfortable? At home. What's so different from me and a cat or a monkey? And whatever, we're all mammals. We all give birth technically in the same process.
Right.
Why is it that a monkey can give birth, a cat can give birth, a dog can give birth? All of a sudden, me, I need all of these things. And you know, when you think about it, we only started giving birth in hospital less than 100 years ago. And
you said something before that. I mean, you, who is created in the image of God, we want to act like we don't have that favor from him, or he has no idea what he's doing with us. Yeah,
and that's also another thing I thought about. I'm like, whichever way you look at it, whether you're looking at it from a scientific way, all the research shows that women give birth best when left alone. Birth works best when left alone. Imagine right now you were to have sex, and then I'm like, okay, first of all, let's get a sex therapist here and OB here, just to make sure, you know, if things go wrong.
That's true.
You also have 15 minutes to orgasm, because that's the average time it takes women to orgasm. Now your own person.
So you just be like you're just focusing on taking down notes, and so you're not going to enjoy what, again, God created it to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, let me check how lubricated you are. Let me time you, you know, let's do it in this bright room. Yeah, so just think about what got baby in will get baby out. So are you going to have sex in the middle of the road?
Yeah.
The bright lights, you know, that's why labor happens at night, in the privacy. So you find that even women who are giving birth in the hospital, you know, at home, when you're having the contractions, it's manageable. You're not so, you know, suffering is the best way I can explain it. But then once you get to hospital, first of all, your contractions stop. I don't know if you experienced the same thing.
Yeah, I actually did. Like there's a period where they stop and you're like, wait,
what is
but
wrong?
I thought we were, and then now when you're in hospital, you start getting nervous, like, oh no, these guys. In fact, I remember with is my last born or my second born, one of the two. First of all, my first birth was a cesarean, and I'll just share about that. So my second and third, I was determined to go natural. But just to your point, because I'll come back to like the whole VBAC conversation, the labor stopped. The labor stopped, and like the nurse kept coming. Bado, as in every. So I was now so nervous, especially now when I had the curtain. I'm just like, oh no, she's back. Bado. And then now they start saying, you know, if you don't, because now this time round I'd refused induction. I'm like, no, just let's wait, let's just wait. But every time she'd come, it almost now felt like a threat. Like, you know, if it doesn't come, we'll just have to put the pill inside.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like, it's so hard because now, like, once I started supporting women, at first I didn't want to just do the hospital birth scene just because it didn't align with like what I believed about birth, and also just the way women get treated. First of all, when you go to the hospital with a doula, you find that your care changes. So someone will be like, so you've brought.
Nowadays, they don't allow that, do they?
No, there's only one hospital that still allows doulas. So, so you find that women start getting treated differently. There's like an attitude, your nurses.
Like, see, you think now you can do it yourself.
So it's just like, it's really hard to watch. And then so women who get me to come support them in hospital, they kind of want me to be an advocate and maybe just like protect them from what happens in the hospital. But what I realized is, I have no authority in a hospispital, first of all. Yeah. Like, if let's say you go and you don't want your induction, you don't want your waters broken, you don't want cervical exams, which is what most women who hire me want. They don't want any of they want the drugs, they want the intervention, you know, they just want go there, give birth, and then go home. But when you go to the hospital, they have certain policies. So now you're the one who has to fit into their space instead of the other way around.
Yeah.
So you end up finding that, okay, you've gone to hospital and then you're like, okay, I don't want induction. And then they'll be like, okay. But then now, because when you get to the hospital, you're on their clock. You know, they need that bed empty. And they need someone else there.
Oh, right. So that's why they're just always...
Yeah. So, you know, when you think about it, why is it that your baby can be in your tummy for 10 months? Then now all of a sudden on the day of labor,
to be like
you have a 24-hour clock. Why is that? You know? But it's because of their policies.
Yeah.
So you find that unless you have, first of all, your husband needs to be on point with like advocating and being like the authority in protecting that space. So unless you have that, you find that, of course, they'll wear you down. You know, you'll say no the first time, they'll come back in 2 hours, they'll suggest it again, come back in another 2 hours. Then by the time you're like at the end, you're tired, you've been stressed. You know, also when you're stressed, your body and muscles are tight. So obviously you can't open up and birth your baby. So by the time you're getting to the end, you're like, give me everything. Or you're just like, fine, and do what you want. Let me just do it. We get out of here and be done. Yeah. So
you're absolutely right, because I remember with my first child, first of all, because this is the first birthing experience. Yes, I did all the reading that I could and educated myself as much as I could, but I feel like there are things now you're not, that are out of your control. And then when you hear the doctor saying, you're obviously like, oh my God, okay, the baby's in distress. Because now I had labored for 14 hours.
That's not long.
I know, and so apparently that was long, and now the baby was going to distress. That's what I remember being told. So, so I've labored, first of all, this a long period. They had induced me, so my labor was extremely painful. There was no, you know, now what induction does is there's a point where it's like there are no, how the contractions naturally happen, there's a space between, right? And as you get closer, then the spaces gets shorter and shorter. However, now when you're induced, it's like continuous, like back to back, like there's no breathing space. So obviously my body's getting tired. It's been 14 hours. CS has been offered on the table. Emergency CS, first of all, baby is distressed, and emergency CS is now offered on the table. So of course, like this, I mean, I'd obviously be like, yeah, sure. I mean, let's go. If I get this baby out, I'm in so much pain. I'm so tired. I don't think I can go through this any longer. So just speak into that, and just what are your thoughts about that? And when you came, you told me you had a 48-hour birth yesterday.
So she went into labor on Monday at 3 a.m. She gave birth on Wednesday at 12 a.m.
Oh my gosh.
She worked so hard. She showed resilience like nothing else. And you know, now she's at home.
So it's possible to, I mean, there's no, what you're trying to tell me is there's no like time, like labor is not time bound.
It's not. If you're looking at, okay, it's been 48 hours. Is mom good? Is baby good? Why can't they keep going? Because you know, baby's been there 10 months. What's another day? So she had to work really hard for the labor, and you know, nobody's saying labor is easy. It can be, but it's not beyond you. You know, like God made you to grow this baby, got you to carry this baby to full term, and your body and God are taking care of you during labor. So for her, she just had to keep, we had to keep encouraging her, you know, at least she was in her space, so she got to rest, she could eat, you know, she wasn't time bound with like external pressures. You know, if she didn't want to go anymore, it's on her. But us, we're here to support her, make sure she's getting well fed, she's resting in between her labor. And at the end, we're just there to encourage her. And you know, like, the thing is with giving birth in the hospital space, you go for your, it's monthly prenatal, right? So you go for your monthly checkups, but it's just to check if something's wrong. If nothing's wrong, they have nothing else to offer you.
Exactly.
So you're not being prepared for what labor will look like.
That's true.
You're not being prepared for what you should eat for labor.
You have to sign up for a class if you want that extra help. And now in the home birth space, like the midwife comes to your house, she'll sit there with you for an hour and a half, talk, get to know you, ask all your questions, get to know your husband, your mother-in-law, your dogs, you know, whoever else you want there. So it's personal, like Okay.
Yeah, imagine it was your wedding and then you go to a wedding planner and they're like, no, we only do red, white, green.
Yeah, those are your only options. So that's okay.
Yeah, or you're planning to climb a mountain or run a marathon. You're going to find a coach that believes in you, that believes you can do it, and is going to prepare you. You're not going to go to like the physio or the surgeon for like injuries or whatever. You're going to find someone who's going to help you through that process.
That's true.
Yeah, so you find that a lot of women go to the hospital. First of all, nowadays, oh, man, everyone is getting induced at like 39 weeks.
Thank you.
It's not, first of all, it's not evidence-based.
Oh
my gosh.
It
makes no sense in the long term.
Let me tell you, I think I've spoken to like moms in the past year and so like who are expectant. Like everyone is like, yeah, so you know, when I get to the doctor say they'll induce me, that thing, I'm just like, are you sure you should go through that? I don't know why it's like the first option they are now offering.
You know, like the hospital is good for high-risk pregnancies. So if you're not high risk, there's really not much else they can offer you.
Right.
And they also have their own tools and, you know, tricks that they're obviously going to want to use, you know.
That's true.
So, you know, now that, you know, before they wouldn't induce you and they wouldn't do anything to mess up birth because they hadn't perfected surgery. Now that they've perfected CS, they can do whatever they need to, because at the end of the day, they know that they can get you in an operating room real quick, easy, get it done, chop, chop, and there.
And that is their money in the bank.
Yes, and it's also their expertise. You know, like most doctors have never seen a birth start to finish naturally, uninterrupted, you know? So when you think about that, they have no point of reference for what normal is. So they're going from death to life. When you go from now, like let's say the home birth space, we're going from how can we get you from thriving to still thriving. So we're not looking at you from broken. You know, you're not trying to prove to me that you can do it. I already know you can do it. It's a matter of you now believing in yourself and trusting your body.
You're speaking to my heart, because you're just reminding me of when my first birth was a CS, and now I'm coming in to give birth for my second birth. And it just felt like I'd been labeled like danger, like like high risk. You know, they're just like the form. I think the form that I had, like everywhere I had to produce it, like they put now this label that now described that this is high risk. Like it just felt like I had already been segregated into like this is probably it's not gonna happen. You know, this natural birth is probably not even going to happen. So I remember what I did. I labored first at home because I could remember from my first birth just the panic that I felt like doctors have a panic, like the nurses, it's like they panic with any small thing. And so I labored from home and then now came to the hospital. But now I think this is when that thing happened, where now my contractions stopped. And now it was just like, hey, what's happening? I'm just like, why do they, do that? Like now you had a CS, you can't do a natural birth. Why is that why do you think that's like the medical, why are medics usually confined to that belief system?
Because first of all this is trauma. Also they're traumatized by the training they go through. Like if you hear from any person who's gone through med school, it's not a pleasant experience. You're overworked, you're not allowed to think critically. You know, you only answer what is in the book. You only do these things that you've been shown to do. You're not allowed to question, you're not allowed to explore. Like I feel like if more OBs were like made to have to attend some home births, that way you have a point of reference for what is normal. So you're not panicking. Like, you know, like let's say I've been in labor for 3 days. I'm still okay, but now you're thinking, oh my God, what if something goes wrong? Is it going wrong? It's not. Yeah, so why not just go from, okay, we are okay now, let's just take it as we go. Because if anything changes, you'll see it. And also things like cervical exams. Like if I wish more women knew, like, you don't need it.
For real?
Your baby is going to come out whether there's a finger in your vagina every 4 hours or not.
No, that's such a traumatic experience for many moms. Like, wacha niangalie, ebu, fungua, panua.
And you know why it's there? It's because they don't know how to tell how you're doing without, doing all these things. We approach birth from a very masculine point of view.
Okay.
It's
all brain, like what you've studied.
We have to logically do this. But birth it's not just a body giving birth. It is you bringing a baby from wherever they are into this world.
Right.
It's a living person. You're growing someone that's, it's going to be thinking, talking. It's not just like flesh and meat. So you can't separate these parts of people. We're all operating at, all of these things together. So your mind, your body, and your soul is all working to bring this baby. So if we're only looking at women from the physical, so that's why now a woman is, has a certain BMI, she can't give birth.
Okay.
You're a certain age, you can't give birth. All of these things. And then especially with VBAC. So with the first pregnancy, these practices, they work against your body. So now if, let's say, you want to have more children, these practices are working against your body. You end up in emergency surgery because of what has been done to you, not because your body failed you. So now next baby, you've already been cancelled out. So you find that most women that I work with nowadays are having VBACs. That's because no hospital will let them even try.
That's true.
So I supported a woman. I literally met her the day of her labor, and she gave birth at home just because she knew her doctor told her, Roho Safi, if you come to the hospital, I'm giving you surgery. I have no confidence to let you do this. So he was clear with her. He was honest at least. He didn't lie that it's dangerous. Your body is your baby might die.
Right.
He was like, I don't have the confidence to do this. So even her, she was like, I'm not going to do that again because you lack the confidence.
Right.
Like, she trusted herself. And, initially her plan was to labor as long as possible like you, and then go to the hospital when baby is literally
ready.
Thing is, she got so comfortable. By the end, she was like, Nicole, I'm not going anywhere. So she got her baby right there in her bedroom.
Power to you, Mama. Right? I feel like just listening to you, and I remember even just going through your page, you guys should check it out, Ruby Mamas. It just feels so sensual, like just the way you talk about birth and just the mother and just how natural it should be and just how to prepare. I just felt like it's just so beautiful the way you say it. And I just wanted to read something you'd written. Ooh, I hope I find it quickly. Actually, I'll read a couple of things that you've like talked about on your page. What did you say? One of the things that I loved that you said is, first of all, just why you do this. You say, God gave woman the gift of bringing life onto the earth, and there's no way he made it to be just about the survival of a baby. Birth is an initiation into motherhood, and how a woman is supported through this initiation and the transition after matters. Support shouldn't be a luxury, it's a basic need. Just like speak into this, into this thought.
I just feel like when you stop looking at birth as something you need to survive, you have so many options. When you're just not trying to die, I can think about, do I want to labor in Watamu? Do I want to give birth?
Oh, wow.
That was my plan for my first baby.
Oh,
I was
really?
going to give birth in Watamu because around that time is when I think the whales were going to Watamu to give birth as well.
Nice.
I was like, that seems like a nice vibe.
You're so connected to nature. I love it.
Then COVID happened, and of course I had to adjust. But now because I was adjusting from like my wildest dream, my next step was like still just as good.
Right.
So I could still be like, okay, let's do this. Plans have changed, but took us hour. So we just adjusted to my room. My house.
And just take me through that process. I think how was that? How was your labor? How was your how, from the stories you hear from other moms who've had it at hospitals and everything, how do you see you being privileged to have chosen the direction you did for yourself?
Oh, there's so much. I think when I tell people that birth isn't what it seems like, first of all, in the movies, I wish they would ban all of these birth scenes, I hate them so much.
Right.
Like, if you want using that as a point of reference, or like the hospital where like, first of all, nobody goes to a hospital unless they're sick, unless you're pregnant, you know? So when you go to the hospital, first of all, you're just associating it with sickness, you know, negative things, right?
Okay.
There's very few people who are excited to go to a hospital.
Yeah.
Even when you give birth, you can't wait to go back home to your bed.
Yes.
Yeah. So for me, it was just honestly quite simple. So for me, my first labor was 20 hours, which I had hoped for. I really wanted a long labor just so I could ease myself into it. Because from the stories I'd heard, like the 1 hour labors were intense. You know?
Okay.
Imagine a baby coming out of you in an hour is a lot.
That means the contractions have to be like, hey,
that baby is literally flying through. Yeah. So and then I heard like, you know, the long labors you get to just, you know, eat, vibe, you know, listen to music.
Vibe. I just feel like labor and vibing are like in my world and in my experiences, they do not meet.
Exactly. Yeah. So for me, early labor, my best friend came over, so we had like a little dinner, her and my husband just like had a nice chill thing. So it was just, you know, random contractions that whole day, and then she left at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
When she left, now active labor started.
Okay.
And that makes so much sense when you think about the fact that labor wants you to be in a private space. So me personally, I'm someone who doesn't like to be observed too much.
Okay.
So I just knew having too many people there would mess with my flow. And of course, there's some women who really need or want
the support.
Like, you know, they want their mom there, they want their sister, all of that. And initially, I thought I'd wanted that, but you know, birth, you know, the way babies and God works, you know, you plan and they have their own plan as well. Yeah. So once she left, things started picking up. I started doing my hair.
Wow, in the house?
Yeah, just there on my ball, contractions, do my hair, drink water, pee. Me and my husband were timing it at some point.
Wow.
And then he got bored or tired, and then he slept. So I was laboring by myself from like 10. He woke up at like 7. And then that's when I started entering transition. So things started getting a lot more intense. You know, throwing up. I was starting to feel like it was getting too much.
Yes.
So I'd given him tips.
When it was getting too bad, no point did you tell him, okay, I've changed my mind, take me to the hospital?
No. So by the time he noticed that I was getting overwhelmed with the contractions, because I'd given him the tips also.
Yes, okay.
He was just like, okay, let's go to the sitting room. So he changed my environment. So which is like another thing that really helps women get out of their heads when you're feeling overwhelmed.
Okay.
Yeah, so he got me out of the bedroom, took me to the sitting room. He suggested candles and music, and I was like, nope, get that out of here. And I gave birth at 12.
That you'd probably gotten to that point where even if, like that point where small things irritate you.
I was like, you can't tell I am doing work. What do you mean, do you want candles?
I remember my husband was trying to massage, because earlier it was working, but I guess it gets to a point you're just like, please, just get that hand off. It's not working anymore.
Exactly, And I told him also, if I don't want something, just, you know, allow it, you know, just, you know, we're going through it. So he let me just do what I needed to do, made sure I was comfortable. Yeah, so by the time he woke up, baby was coming, my water broke. I asked him to check if like the water was clear, because now since it was just me and him, I also had to like be on top of the, I guess, medical side of things. So I needed to make sure the water was clear. I didn't have any meconium or anything. He was like, yo man, I don't know what I'm looking at. So I was like, okay, give me my phone. I took a picture, checked, everything was fine. Then we just went on. Then we started pushing. She came in like 3 pushes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And first, are there any differences between your first and the second? Are there things you felt during the second birth you were like, okay, I want to change this a bit. Last time I wished I would have had this instead, or maybe I'm going to change a few, you know, just things that you did initially, or did you just keep it the same?
It was pretty much the same. With my second, my mother-in-law was there.
Okay.
They actually born on the same day.
Oh, nice.
So,
is this the one on your page? Is this the one? Because I hear after you give birth, your husband goes like, Mom.
Yeah.
Is it that one?
Yeah, so she was with my oldest.
Oh man, let me tell you, I've watched that video. Which one is it? I watched that video like
this one.
twice, and every time I watch it, do you mind if we give these guys a snippet of it?
No.
Every time I watch it, I'm just like, oh my gosh, so beautiful. So your mom-in-law is the one who now your husband was calling.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And she came out in the sack. So the sack broke like as her head came out. So she just came out in one.
Oh my gosh. And then now you cut the umbilical cord. Did you
After a few hours.
After a few. Oh, so you left it. Oh yeah, they recommend leaving it on. Now those are things you can't get at the hospital.
Exactly.
Why do they recommend like you cutting it after a few hours?
So when your baby is born, a third of their blood volume is still in the placenta.
Oh really?
So when you leave the cord to turn white, that means all the baby's getting all their blood, all the stem cells that they need.
Oh my gosh.
And then like the beautiful thing, like everything is so well thought out. So when the blood is all transferred, the cord starts to clamp itself. So there's like a jelly in between each vein. So once all of the blood is done, your placenta tells your brain that okay, I'm done with my work, you can stop. So it starts to like disintegrate all of that jelly, and then it clamps itself.
Really?
Yes.
So you don't have to cut it?
No, there's people who even leave have you heard of, so it's called a lotus birth. So this is now when you leave the cord to fall off on its own. So baby stays attached to the placenta for like 3-4 days.
Okay.
Until it all just falls off on its own.
What?
Yeah.
Now those are things they don't tell us. At the hospital, just like, cut immediately. Okay. In fact, I remember I think my last born child. So Lord bless her soul. We had this interesting loveliness. And we're not here to bash the medical, industry, but I just feel like they need to put a little bit more heart into the whole process. Maybe it's the stresses of the organization or the stresses of the medical industry as well, because I think we also see them going through a lot too. So I just remember we've recorded like all the births, our birth experiences. And this last one, so my husband was, the usual, trying to set up the camera and Nini. I was like, we don't do that here. Please don't record. Like starts refusing him. And then I just feel like she was in a mood that day. And then now even when we wanted him to like cut the placenta, I think she refused. She was just like, no. The doctor will do it. As in, she was just being so, being so difficult. I even remember in the middle of my labor, I think I was, there's something I felt you described on the page, and I'm like, I think that's what I was going through. Like where you just have this urge to, like there are those deep grunts, I don't know whether to call it. And my husband was also like, yeah, go after, you're a warrior, whatever, with Wakanda and everything. You're just like, yes, I am. So I was like, And then the nurse, excuse me, you don't have to shout here, please. But then I even stopped in the middle of my pain. I'm like, sorry.
Man, I've seen women go through some horrible things. Like just like what in any other situation would be described as rape. And what I'm really loving about the conversations we're having, like nowadays women are not just limited to just going to the hospital and then, don't talk about it. Yeah. We're all starting to talk to each other. Like now, me and you are talking, we're like, okay, that didn't seem right. Yeah. And like when you think it's only you, it can feel like maybe you're the problem or maybe your body's the problem. But once you start seeing, you are induced, you also end up with CS. Yeah. Now you're like, this is
there's
not
something.
Sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So things like I've seen women be slapped, being told to shut up, like all of these things where you're just like, just leave her alone.
To just go through it. Oh my gosh. So something that you say on your page is there's a statement you make saying hold the mother. And the statement that follows is not only about the survival of the baby. So where is this thought coming from? Like, what do you feel has been the history of the mother's birthing experience? Do you feel like they only focus about like the moment the child is in distress, then it's like they don't care about the mother's experience as well.
Yeah. So you see, for the hospital, because they're so used to dealing with traumatic events, and they view birth as a life-threatening situation. So for them, as long as the baby and the mom are alive, see, they've done their job.
Yeah.
Like even the OB, once the baby is born, they're done. You know, they move now. You're on to the pediatrician. So it's like you're not connecting that the way you feel after your birth is also just as important.
Yeah.
How control you are of your birth experience is important. And this carries on to motherhood. Like if you feel like, oh my God, this birth really just assaulted me. It has, it wrecked me.
Right.
First of all, a lot of women end up having a lot of resentment for their partners because it's like, your partner is supposed to be there to protect you.
Yeah.
And it's not like a conscious thing. You know that you feel like you have to go to this place to give birth, right?
Yeah.
And you're expecting, first of all, not prepared for, okay, you're not told that you'll be induced. The induction is unreliable. Most people, induction will not take, because if your body is not ready, whatever you do, that baby is not going to come out. So you'll end up with now.
So it's a hit or miss.
It's literally. It's just by luck that, you give birth.
Yeah.
So you end up with like all these terms that now put it on the mom. Like, you failed the induction failed. So it ends up feeling like you failed. You failed to do this thing that was expected of you.
Right.
But really, your baby was not ready. You are not ready. And there's certain steps in the whole birth process, and it's very delicate. So if you interrupt this one process, you've interrupted the whole thing. Yeah. So like, let's say now with Pitocin, you're given Pitocin to speed up the labor.
Pitocin is a medication that one of the drugs they usually give you.
So usually if they're like, okay, let's put you on the drip, it's usually Pitocin to now that's what makes those intense, painful contractions. Yeah. Like before you're given, first of all, they don't discuss it with you pre-labor, because when you're in labor, you're really vulnerable and you're not in a headspace to make very informed decisions. So even if I come to you and tell you, I don't even know if do they give you a form for all these drugs? Some of they just give you.
No, I think they just actually just give you.
Exactly.
Yeah. They tell you, we'll induce you, then they bring it.
Yeah. So now like even if you're going to do these things, we need to give women informed consent. Are you going to tell them, okay, we'll give you induction? First of all, it's a high chance it will not take. Once you have the drugs in you, it makes it more dangerous, because now we need to watch baby. So now you don't have the option of moving around, because they need to monitor you and how the induction is taking.
Yeah.
Once you get the induction, it's going to be more painful. So you're most likely going to want an epidural. Epidurals have fentanyl. They disconnect you from the baby. So your body doesn't know what it's doing. That's why you end up with needing to be coached through pushing.
Oh, wow.
And then now, because your body is numb, your body doesn't send messages to your brain that we've given birth to the baby. We can stop the contractions, birth the placenta. So now that increases your chance of postpartum hemorrhage. This is why
oh my gosh,
at home, you rarely see people having postpartum hemorrhage. But in the hospital, that's the leading cause of death.
Yeah. What?
Yes.
So please explain, for the sake of anybody who might not know, what is postpartum hemorrhage.
Okay, so postpartum hemorrhage is any excessive bleeding after you give birth. So it could be immediately after, to a day or two, or a week after. So actually, there's a bunch of studies that have shown that, first of all, in Kenya, the leading cause of maternal mortality is obstetric related. So that's 42% of women who die. It's directly related to obstetrics.
Yeah.
So it's not that women's bodies are failing.
Yeah.
It's the things we are doing to women. So why can't we change this?
Yeah.
Like, I think America is a really good case study, because they're very highly medicalized, and they're also a first world country. Okay. So you can't say that they're third world, all these stereotypes of us who are here. So they're very medicalized. They have a high C-section rate. They have a high mortality rate. They have high postpartum anxiety and depression rates, like very negative outcomes.
Yeah.
And this is all from women who are giving birth in the hospital.
Oh, wow.
So it's only 2% of women in America who give birth at home. So you can't blame now as home birth moms for we're killing our babies.
Yeah.
So when you look at it there, and then you compare to places like Netherlands, where it's very integrated with the home birth and midwifery space. Like there, it's very rare that you'll have an OB as your main point of care for prenatals.
Okay.
So you go to them, or you have the option of them going to them, or they come to you. When you're about to give birth, they're like, do you want to give birth in the hospital? You want to stay at home?
So there are options given to you.
Yeah, and then they have a CS rate of less than 10%. And that is what is the recommended rate. But now you come to places like South Africa, Kenya, it's like 70-60%.
Oh my gosh.
And we're not asking any questions.
Yeah.
And it's at the detriment of us as moms. Because now if you're, first of all, healing from a traumatic birth, how can you show up for your baby? How can you show up for yourself? You're just on survival mode.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that means even the whole process after even giving birth is affected. Because I'm also thinking of, breastfeeding and everything else that just happens after that, even how your body heals, then is probably impacted. And we probably want to blame other things to these things, or milk supply is low, and you have no idea that there's a connection to maybe how even your birthing process went.
And
that's now and the drugs that's now affecting you now.
Like we tell women, don't eat sushi, don't eat coffee, but now all of a sudden in labor you want to give them fentanyl, you want to give them all of these. So there's certain drugs that have black box warnings. So a black box warning it means like this drug has a high chance of death as a side effect.
Oh my gosh.
So it's not a loadless drug that we'll just give you this and nothing will happen.
Wow.
So things like Pitocin has a black box warning.
Wow.
So we're not being told these things. And then by the time a woman is having postpartum hemorrhage, it's like, oh, the doctor saved me. Imagine what would have happened if I wasn't in hospital. But really,
it's some of the methods that they decided to use.
And the thing is, it takes about 10 years for research to start being implemented in hospital. So now are you going to wait 10 years for the doctors to finally be like, oops.
Sorry,
I guess we should be dimming lights. Like all of these really simple, inexpensive things. Like imagine how much better our outcomes would be if women were allowed to birth in the hospital, but now with dim lights, no beeping, no cervical exams. You want on a 24-hour time limit. They'd have a lot higher vaginal birth rates. But all of these things, it's not in the system's best interest. And this is not to say that it's the doctors. Of course, there's some bad ones. But if you're going to learn, if you're being taught a certain way to do it, and you don't know any other way, of course, you're just going to do what you've been taught. So it's the system, but it's also now up to us, because it's our births. And it's us to take charge of it. We need to be in control.
We need to be in control of it.
Say no if you don't want something. Find another option, because I also don't believe in going into labor preparing to fight. Because you need to be relaxed, you need to be calm. So, having your cortisol and adrenaline up is going to just mess up your whole birth.
Oh, wow. Hey, a lot to learn, a lot to rethink and relearn. And at least for those who are preparing to be mummies, and in future, if they're 19-year-olds like you, who are so ready way beforehand and planning towards that, I'm just like, there's a lot to learn. So let me just ask, do you feel like this whole, I know we've said it, but how do you feel your journey into going through this natural, home birth experience, impacted even now your mothering, your, raising your kids?
Okay. I like to say I parent I have 10 kids. With my first, I was not so fussed about too much. All of this, you see a lot of first-time moms with a lot of anxiety. Is my baby doing this? You have so much anxiety because you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know that you have the answers. So for me, I was like, okay, it's okay. Just give my baby time. If she's uncomfortable, I observe her before panicking. So try and see what we can do to fix it. If there's something that I know is beyond me, I'm not scared to ask for help. So I'm very good at outsourcing. I'm very good at just staying calm. Although I don't know if that's also just my
who
personality.
You are. Okay.
But I just feel like I don't have a lot of anxiety and fuss and pressure when it comes to how I parent. So my goal is always find the most fun and least, the path of least resistance is the one I want to follow.
Oh, wow. I just feel like listening to you, like, yes, I mean, even my birthing experiences, I feel like, I've been saying like, it was, especially when the baby comes, it's a beautiful experience, but I'm just like, it can actually be
better.
Way better than it probably was, because it's like you're saying, you own the entire thing. And even now you talking about how you are as a mom, because I'm just like, even then you're just reading, okay, they said I relax when breastfeeding, okay, I'm relaxed. Milk come, like everything is just so stressful. Everything is just made to be like, okay, now read this and then now do. Like it's just so robotic, structural. So it's not the way you're saying it. Like you're saying it's so like it's flowing, just flowing and so fluid and just be easy. Yeah. So I'm just so happy to hear that you had that experience, and because of you, like so many other moms will get to experience, and the moms you've already been with will get to experience a whole different journey.
And I think like the women you see the most impact with, like just having the two different experiences, like because I never gave birth in the hospital, so I have no point of reference for that, so I don't know how to compare it to, like me, my birth was just my birth. But like the women I work with who, not even just a CS, because a CS is not traumatic in and of itself. It's how you get there. Like for me, I knew if I'd been laboring and things were going wrong, I have no problem going to the hospital and be like, your man, can you help me out? That's how it should be. Doctors should be there for emergencies. Not everything is an emergency. So you find that women who gave birth in the hospital and I know a woman who suffered from prolapse for a year. So, most people are like, oh, so you gave birth vaginally. Your baby's here. Why are you complaining?
But what is prolapse?
It's basically when your anus falls out.
Oh my gosh. I thought hemorrhoids were bad.
Hemorrhoids are hectic.
I've experienced those and I'm just like, wait. Terrible.
So, for her, everyone's like, oh, you give birth vaginally, baby's here, you're alive. So they're like, why are you complaining? But for her, she has to live with the feelings of that birth. She has to live with carrying around a pillow in her bag because she can't just sit down anywhere.
Oh my gosh.
Like there's so many things that women have to carry with them silently and alone, So like there's a lot of women that come to me and they're like, okay, I want to give birth at home, but maybe my husband or my mother-in-law are not for it. Then they end up giving birth in the hospital and you live with that regret, right? Because everyone is like, baby's alive, we're alive, we're good. But you have the feelings inside, you have to deal with that trauma, the depression, and because you don't have an outlet after, like hospital, when you give birth in the hospital, you don't have that continuity of care. So after you give birth, there's no one coming to check on you, how you're breastfeeding, how you're adjusting. So you find women are suffering with all these thoughts and feelings with no one to talk to about.
They actually do. Like after you give birth, they come check. Like they come finya your nipples. Maziwa imekuja. Has the milk come yet? They do, but like I remember just saying, I feel like after, because I had like my second child, like when I had my second child, it felt like, so you have a first baby, you should know now what to do. And I feel like it's different. Like every child is different. I feel like you always need a refresher. You just need support with every child that comes.
And that's like those little things that matter to women and their families. And then also, I like to speak about dads because they're also very forgotten. Like, imagine now your husband having to watch you go through all that. It's traumatic for him as well. But because he's not the one who gave birth, nobody's really concerned with him. He has to go back to work. He has to like navigate, his wife who's traumatized and angry and has so much rage and, stressed, and they don't know what to do aside from, I guess, provide, and they have no one to talk to. So also for dads, I've seen the impact of the healing that comes with that redeeming birth, where you are in control, you are important, you are the authority in the birth, first of all. I've seen dads be like, that is amazing. Like, they look at their wives like, oh my God, like I can't believe you just did that.
Yeah.
And you see like just their bond grows so much. It's just, it's such a beautiful thing to see.
I love what you just called it, redeeming birth. Yeah, because it's almost like just what you just said, you're now the authority of your journey and this whole birthing experience. As we wind up, like what one thing do you feel is not talked about enough that you feel needs to be said? As much as needs to be talked about more often.
For birth?
Birth, motherhood in general. Anything that comes to mind?
I think the one thing I'd say for all of it is maybe just learning to trust the women and women learning to trust ourselves. Because, you know, you grow up and first of all, your period is disgusting. You know, you have to hide your period. You're at risk of being assaulted anywhere you go, and it's on you, even as a child, you know. You have to watch your uncle, someone on the street, all of these things, and you don't grow up feeling safe. You know? Or like you are in charge of your body and your life, you know, it's always dependent on someone else. So so for me, this is like, I chose this not just for me, for my daughters. Like for me now, my daughter is like, oh, you're going for a birth class? She knows what a placenta is. She gets so concerned about my clients. Like now with the one I was telling you about, she's always like, okay, mom, can we go check on the baby? She's just, she just knows all about it. And then also I've started fertility awareness method and I'm taking her through that as well.
Oh, really?
So she helps me taking the temperature. So for me now, by the time she's getting her period and starting her cycle, she knows what to look out for. She knows that you don't need to have painful cramps. The periods don't need to be painful.
Oh, wait, you don't need to have painful cramps?
I guess your period shouldn't be painful. Like,
really? Shouldn't
be? Should not be painful.
What? Hey, clearly, after this, we're going to be writing some notes, more notes. Wow, okay.
So we started fertility awareness method. I'm really excited about that and doing that with her. So for me, this is not just for me, but it's for her and her children if she chooses to have some.
I feel like that's such a valid point because like we said, like this whole mothering thing, I feel like it's almost innate. Let me say it's almost innate. So starting to prepare even our daughters, knowing that the things that happen with you and your body are beautiful. It's nothing to hide. It's nothing to feel ashamed about, because I see how what you're doing with your daughter will be now when her period comes, she's first of all informed, educated. And when she's educated and informed, she's confident in the whole process. Like there's no fear. I know how to take care of myself. I know what I need to buy. I know. And now that you're saying period doesn't have to be painful, and now fast forward to her becoming a mom, God willing, however God decides for her journey to look like, I just feel like there'll be knowledge and support around her. Like already what you're giving her will be like a foundation she's standing on.
I'm so excited for her.
Excited. So I guess you'll be that mom who's there with her when if she lets you, obviously. You'll be the answer. If no, I want to be alone in this process.
I'm working hard so that we're best friends.
We're besties. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Ruby, Nicole. I call you Ruby because like just of your page and that's how I first interacted with you. I could give you an opportunity because it's Mother's Day, and the reason why we had to stop everything and just just celebrate our mothers, celebrate motherhood, because it's a journey that is beautiful. It's a journey that is, as Nicole speaks, it just feels like such a natural, fluid, beautiful journey that you deserve to experience. I don't know if you have anything you'd love to say to your mom.
Oh, to my mom, thank you for, first of all, giving me a good relationship with my body and for carrying me this far. In as much as, we've had our challenges, I really wouldn't be who I am if, she hadn't kept me alive. Like, ever since I had babies, I didn't realize that we're just living, walking through life with our mother's prayers. Like, these things I used to do.
That is so true.
You could have died. And I just know it's because my mom was praying somewhere over there. When you become a mom, you become so aware of how closely you're walking with death. Like, this baby is living here and she could just die. Like, I'm not promised to be with her today.
That's so true. I would like to say also to my mom, thank you so much for being amazing. When I think about her, I remember when I had my firstborn child, she never missed a doctor's appointment. You know, the mother's checkups, she never missed. Like, she was there with me through those checkups, through those appointments. And even when I gave birth, she was always sitting in the waiting room. I'm just so thankful for you. I'm so thankful for the friendship that we continue to build. I speak a blessing over you, over your life. I thank God for your age, because it's also your birthday.
Oh, really?
It's also, her birthday is intertwined with Mother's Day. I just wish you all of God's love, all of God's blessing, and I love you so, so much. And to every mom who is watching us, I just hope that this conversation has given you some confidence, some courage to take back what is yours, because this motherhood experience is you. You are your own, you're the authority in your process. You decide how it could go. And I'm so thankful to you, Ruby.
Thank you for giving me this platform to talk and share.
I'm so thankful for you being able to go against the grain. Let me say that. Just being able to see the gaps that are existing in this space and be able to give moms an option. Like, this is possible. Labor and birth is a God-given gift. And you can experience it in a different way than has historically happened before. So thank you. Power to you. Thank you for being here and coming on. So if you haven't watched our previous episodes, please go back and watch them and then journey along with us and leave a comment. Give Ruby a message. If you want her to be your doula, reach out to her. Her pages are
Ruby Mamas. And on everything.
Ruby Mamas on everything. And you have a podcast too.
I do have a podcast. It's called Back to Basics. It shares mostly home birth stories, but I'm also incorporating just informative episodes. Just talking about, things you need to know for birth and postpartum.
Awesome. So check her out as well. Thank you for tuning in and for joining us. See you on the next episode. Bye.